The crossover between people who own pedals and people who own synths has grown massively, exponentially over the last decade. I think probably starting with the Strymon Big Sky, this idea that guitar pedals were just for guitar is now completely and totally put to bed. I think it's probably fair to say that most people who own a hardware synthesizer probably also run it through pedals, whether that's reverb, delay, or distortion. Retro Mechanical Labs out in Oregon are definitely riding this particular wave. They make this kind of fuzz, distortion, filter, drive kind of boxes. They hand make everything. They're absolutely beautiful. They've got this fantastic design language, and they're available when you order them because they hand make everything with either a foot switch, as you would find on a guitar pedal, or kind of a flicky switch that you would find on something more suitable for desktop use. So a foot in both camps, so to speak. Today we check out their distortion/filter box, one of many, called the Hyde. The first thing you notice about the Hyde, or indeed any of the Retro Mechanical Labs boxes, is again that absolutely gorgeous design language. These VU meters, a lot of them, I think where they can, they use vintage VU meters from kind of old retro gear. They color match, or do their best to color match. They hand select each of the VU meters based on its qualities, kind of for the unit and for its purpose. This particular VU meter here is showing how hard the filter is being driven. You also notice these absolutely gorgeous wooden, I think it's cherry on this particular unit, this kind of cherry wood box that just kind of ensconces the whole thing and just looks absolutely fantastic. I don't think the top-down camera is going to do it justice here, but you're just going to have to take my word for it, or buy one for yourself, or go and see one, because it is beautiful. It's probably the most beautiful kind of effects unit that I've ever seen. The Hyde is a distortion/filter box with a built-in LFO down the bottom here and CV input for the filter control. So what we have, everything's kind of labeled with its own kind of funky name, but you do get a nice little card here for that's kind of a translator, and if you lose the card, there is parchment with this printed on the bottom stuck to it. Just using parchment, by the way, lovely touch, love that. It just really fits the whole thing, awesome, love it. So you've got Hyde over here, which is the control of the filter cutoff from filter completely open to filter completely closed. Which is kind of backwards to what you would normally expect, and yet kind of makes sense at the same time. Fortis over here is a resonance control. Up and down here are pre and post gain for the distortion circuits on either side of the filter, which are just amazing. You've got a on and off filter for the LFO, and an LED indicator for the LFO, just to show you kind of where it is in that curve. Bias and zeal are LFO depth and rate respectively, and then reset, or Y, down here. I have no idea why it's called that, but it's kind of an extra stage of saturation down there, which when you turn it all the way up has a bit of a volume impact, so you can counteract that with the down knob just here. You've got Fixus, which is on and off, bypass and engage, and CV to the filter there. On the back you have a standard power 9 volt input, or I think it's 18 volt in the States, which I didn't realise until this turned up, and a in and out on the back, just regular standard jack in and out, and that's pretty much it. I have a few different sources kind of queued up to play with this thing, which I'm really excited about. I've got a beat going on like an 808 kind of drum machine type thing, so I think we're gonna try that first. That's absolutely fat. It's massive. It immediately lends this just enormous weight, even if it's not really particularly active. Even just having the kind of up and down, just having those distortion circuits involved, even when the circuit is wide open, just lends this huge push. I really, really like that it preserves the low end. With a lot of distortion, when you run a lot of kind of like very low endy, like sub or anything like that through it, you tend to lose a lot of that content just by nature of the distortion circuit. That doesn't seem to be happening. If anything, it's accentuating them. It's given everything a really massive kick. I first heard of Retro Mechanical Labs via Mick Gordon and the Doom soundtrack. If you've been watching this channel for a while, you know I am a massive fan of Mick and his work on Doom. And I think he used the 432K distortion box. I can't find one of those anywhere, but I did find this on Reverb, and I can totally see, even just from the design language, you get that kind of doomy vibe. But yeah, just from the sound of it, you can tell it's got this industrial weight to it, and it's so heavy and it's so aggressive. The filter is really nice. It's quite smooth, which is surprising. I was expecting something a bit more polyvoxy, you know, where it just goes and it screams and it's hard no matter what you do. But this, you could almost probably use this in a normal person setting instead of a distortion nut setting. I have got a kind of Reese bass thing set up that I'm going to run through it as well, so I think we'll move on to that now. Interesting there. What I was trying to do there on something kind of like the Korg MS-20 or something kind of like that, you can close the filter all the way off, so you're just getting those really, really low kind of subby frequencies through, kind of everything below like 200 hertz, really, not quite sub, but close. You push up the resonance, and what it'll do is it'll shove all of those low frequencies, and you can get this really big, booming, driving bass sound. Really useful for making kicks or just unhinged basses, all that kind of stuff. The filter doesn't quite seem to go low enough to pull that off, which is a little bit of a bummer, but it sounds really, really fat. Interestingly, and just to make my life difficult, on that bass sound there, it didn't do quite as good of a job as preserving the low end. I'm wondering if it's kind of the faster transient there that's kind of throwing it off a little bit. Lots and lots and lots of high. I feel like when I brought the pre-gain down and drove it post-filter, we got better results there, kind of preserving that low end and the transient. It is a very kind of busy bass line anyway. I'm writing a project with a friend, which is why I wanted to run it through that. I just wanted to see how it would cope, really. It sounds really, really cool. I'm really, really digging it so far. It's a really, really nasty thing. I've got one more thing to run through it, which is this kind of arpeggio line I've got, again, for that project with a friend. I'm just going to run it through this and see what we get. Let's have a listen. Really, really, really cool. You get lots of interesting kind of artifacting coming around. The relationship between this pre-gain and post-gain is really, really interesting. It's something I've actually learned while I've been filming this video, is that if you bring that pre-gain down, let it hit the filter, and then drive it in post, you preserve a bit more of the kind of low-end character of the sound, which was really interesting. I think that was quite apparent there when we were kind of knob twiddling while the arps were going. You get some kind of interesting stuff. I mean, there's a few little kind of bits that I'd love to see added to this, but I think they would actually subtract from it, which I know is a kind of silly thing to say. I would love to see, for example, a tap tempo for the zeal, for the LFO rate. But I mean, at the same time, you start adding stuff like tap tempo, and things start getting digital, and they start getting, and that's just not what this is. It's just not what it's for, and it's not what it's about. It's an analog, handmade, beautiful, fantastic sounding, fat, gnarly, aggressive filter distortion unit that is fantastic at all of those things. That's exactly what it's supposed to do. It is worth noting, though, I think that I did do a kind of relatively okay job of just syncing it by hand, by ear, just in that short clip. So, I mean, it's obviously not an insurmountable thing. Would it be cool to have to just go but, even if there was like an input for it, then yeah, absolutely. But, you know, the fact that there's not is not the end of the world. That's not what this thing's about. That's not what the ethos is. And the ethos with something this cool is so important, because it's psychologically, it's part of what makes it so much fun and so cool to use. I have absolutely loved checking out the Hyde. I've had a really, really good time playing with it. I've had a really, really good time running a few different sources through it. There are a few other Retro Mechanical Labs pedals that boxes, units that I'd really, really like to get stuck into and get my hands on. So I think you can probably, hopefully, expect to see more of that on the channel very shortly. I'm sorry, by the way, just talking of the channel, I'm sorry there haven't been any videos recently. The reason for that is this bookcase arrived. I bought it and it's great and I really like it, but it took about a month to get it delivered, and this room has been full of boxes for the last month, because the bottom half of it got delivered and the top half didn't, and there were parts of it kind of intermixed, so I couldn't build it without all of the parts, obviously. And getting that shipped here in enormous boxes, it was not fun. It was not great, I'm not going to lie. But it's up there now, and I really like the look of it. But and it's somewhere to keep my horror collection, which is super fun. But yeah, so I do apologise for that. But hopefully you enjoyed this video. I will try and make it up to you in the coming weeks and months. I think I'm going to do a video on my MS-20, which is right there. I've got a vintage MS-20 and I'm going to feature this in it. I think I'm going to use the Hyde with it because I want to showcase using some of that CV stuff, and this has a CV in, which I didn't touch in this video, so that's going to be super, super fun. Get subscribed if you want to talk about MS-20s and all of that good stuff. Thank you so much for watching. Nevermore has a forum, so if you're into that sort of thing, get down to the link in the description and get chatty. Lots of like-minded people talking all sorts of things, from guitar tone, tubes, all the way over to synths and Eurorack and all that sort of stuff. So come over there, get stuck in, show off your music, get chatty. We'd love to have you. Thank you again so much for watching. I will see you next time.